Welcome to CJ's Real Southern Podcast. I'm your host, Chad Johnson, fly fishing guide, storyteller, and Southern soul through and through. From the front porch to the river banks, this podcast is going to be about connection, friends, and maybe learning a trick or two about trophy fishing. So grab a sweet tea, tie on your favorite fly, and let's go fishing. Hey, I'm real excited about tonight and tonight's guest. Before we get started, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. One is, as these podcasts go on, guys, I'd like to kind of talk to the audience a little bit. So I'm going to give y'all an email address. It's cjsrealsouthern@outlook.com. And y'all send me in some questions. We'll kind of pick a question or two a month and just kind of answer those and the best we can. And it's just a little bit of a way for us to communicate. All right. Thanks, guys. So I got one more thing, little oddball, but like all of you guys know, Mr. Dave Whitlock passed away a couple of years ago, and Ms. Emily has come to me and Ben Levin to see if we would help her sell some of his things. She's ready to clear some things out. And so we're not exactly sure how the sale's going to go yet, but y'all just start looking at either mine or Ms. Emily Whitlock's or Ben Levin's email or Facebook sometime around the 1st of October. And we'll start posting what we're going to do, how the sale will work, and just kind of where we're going to go with it. So y'all just kind of keep your eyes open for that. And, if you want to be a part of that, we'll make that available to you. So tonight, man, I've got Landon Mayer out of Colorado. He's been guiding there over 20 years. Most of you guys have heard of him. Good Lord, he's done tons of books. You know, he's got 101 trout tips, Colorado's best fly fishing, Landon's guide flies, sight fishing for trout, the hunt for giant trout, and I'm sure there's more and I'm forgetting something. He's traveled the world and taught classes, and like he's all over the place, but it's good to have you, Landon.
Thank you, brother. It's great to be on, man. Good to hear your voice, and brings me back to some of the days we spent on the boat in your neck of the woods chasing after those giants, man. That was fun.
I know. It was kind of a we had a couple of experiences with the low water and different things, but you know that is part of chasing these big trout on our tailwaters. You never know what you're going to get, and you go with what you got. We had a pretty tough couple of days of fishing, but yeah, man, it was fun getting to know each other and kind of making that connection. And I got to say thanks to you for letting me play in the book and be a part of that. That was pretty freaking awesome. And
of course, brother.
So what do you have going on these days, Landon? Kind of what are you doing over in Colorado? Like most people already have read your books or know who you are, but for somebody that doesn't know who you are, what are you doing over there?
Yeah, right now we're chasing some of our stillwater fish that are eating calabatus dries, and we're dropping some of my leech patterns below hoppers and getting after some of the fish in the dog days of summer, trying to focus on the deep water game, not so much the river. We have a really cool cleanup coming on. It's our 10-year anniversary of Clean the Dream, which is amazing. We get close to 300 volunteers, and we get close to 2,500 pounds of trash, and we clean literally all of South Park, which is 200 miles in circumference. So that's on August 30th, and we're super stoked, and it's exciting to see the families come out and everybody celebrate cleaning and giving back and protecting the resources. So it's a lot of fun. But that's in the immediate, and some trips coming up. I'll be in Alaska again finally. It's been about 5 years since I hosted there, so we're going to be going down to Lower Tulare Creek at the end of September. So I'm looking forward to that, and and my daughter's attending college. My son's growing, seems like an inch every month, and love being a father. So he's eating all my food, man. I got to stay in the water busy, you
Yeah,
know.
that's right. You got to work, baby.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun, man. I'm just thankful to be out and staying healthy on the rehab from the back injury and trying to be stronger every day. So I'm thankful for every step and fish and all the friends along the way, brother.
Right on. You got any projects in the works right now?
Right now I'm working on doing a casting book with Jay Nichols, which I'm excited about. There's, as you know, when you get in the boat or you get out on foot and you're, analyzing and assessing what your clients can do for a cast or how you can help them day to day. That's one project I have not done, and I'm excited about it because from the beginning, taking the Federation of Fly Fishers course, that was probably one of the biggest and best moves I ever made because I can within 5 minutes kind of see what's going on, help somebody, and most importantly, as we do when we're on the water with clients, have them successfully make a cast and presentation. So that's in the works right now, and hopefully in the next year that'll be complete.
Yeah, it's crazy how people think that's so unimportant that they learn their cast and practice their cast. I mean, all of us as guides, we determine where we're going to take somebody for the day, what fish we're going to present to them, like the whole thing. And if you're a good guide, that's what you're doing. You're taking the skill
Absolutely.
level you have and like hopefully teaching them something for the day. But like, I mean, it is the very first part of getting any of it done, right?
So
Like, so
true.
it's so important, especially when we start talking about not just targeting big fish, but really the way that you're targeting big fish with sight fishing to them. And I mean, they really have to put it on the money. Like the cast is kind of the first initial part.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's so true. And I think a lot of anglers, what I've realized over time is that many anglers cast to the river or cast to the water, which is the first step, along with reading water. But then when you get somebody and you teach them how to cast long, the hardest thing, in my opinion, is to teach them how to cast short. When you can't load the rod with the weight of the line and you have to adapt and adjust to where you're casting 10, 15 feet. And like you said, it's on the dime or it's close to, that really is the challenge. And you hit it spot on where you watch somebody cast and within 5 minutes, it's not just the preparation the night before, it's the preparation right there and then on the boat or on the water. And when you do that, it really does make a difference, I think, in how not only successful you are, but also making the client comfortable and then bringing everybody success by the end of the day.
Yeah, that just reminds me. One time I was talking to Dave, and I told him he wrote in one of his books where his favorite thing to do is throw a damsel fly over a limb, let it sit and twitch above the water, twitch it off into the water, and watch something eat it. And I was like, Dave, you got to quit telling people that. Like, do you know how many people can throw that into that tree and twitch that out and not
Yeah.
get hung up? And he goes, well, Chad, did you stop and give them a casting lesson?
That's so true, right? That's so true. That's amazing. That's awesome.
So I never forgot that. I was like, all right, so if they're not getting it done, it is always worth stopping and taking 15 minutes and trying to work it out because you're fixing to
Right.
fish for the next 7 hours. Right? You
Exactly.
can let them do that for 7 hours. Or you're going to stop and do a 15-minute class and get them there. So you really just
Yeah.
feel like taking the course for yourself got you to where you could do that like more efficiently.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I look back at it and I think to myself, one of my favorite videos when I was younger was the Mastery series from Scientific Anglers, and one of my heroes on that was Doug Swisher, and he'd talk about the microsecond wrist, and he's making all these casts on the clock. And later on, when I started testing and was finally tested, it was Randy Swisher that tested me, and it's one of the most valuable positions I've had as a guide, and then learning how to become a teacher because it allows me to within the first hour, 5 minutes realistically, but within the first hour, not only help somebody cast, but I think this is the most important part. It's allowing them to learn from you when you break it down into threes or you keep it short. You're not confusing them by over talking the situation. And I used to do that before I, became certified. And now I can tell them within 3 steps or what they can do to make an adjustment. And it's quick and it's easy. And it starts the process of that learning, catch, and experience throughout the day. So yeah, it was so valuable. I'm so thankful that I actually took that step for sure.
That's cool. How long ago did you do that?
I did that when I was 22, so that was my fourth year into guiding, and I'm now, I can't believe it. Next year is my 30th year, so it was way back. But
30.
I would,
Whoa,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, 30 straight out of high school. And, I remember this too. It was amazing. I had another mentor, and, this, as you know, man, there's so many people in this sport that help you become a better teacher, or just kind of take you under their wing and help you out along the way. And if you remain a student and you put your ego to the side, you learn so much from so many wonderful people. And Dusty Sprague used to be with the federations, and he was the board of governors, and he opened up Doherty High School. So every Saturday for like 6 months, we'd go into Doherty High School and we'd film ourselves casting. And then it was neat because it wasn't dissecting somebody else's cast. I was putting myself on the chopping block. And man, I was learning so much about creeping and not pausing and loading the rod and all the different things that will help you get distance and help you become a better angler. And for that, I'm thankful too, because you see it, you visualize it, and you become a better teacher that way too. So it was pretty fun, man. Good way to spend
Uh,
a Saturday.
yeah, right. So, I also understand that just here pretty recent, you moved from Uncle Feather Merchant to MFC.
I did. Yeah, it was actually, this is the first time really talking about it, and it was a challenging move, to be honest, for sure, Chad, because I've been with Umpqua for a long time, and I have a lot of mentor and friends, and there was no bad blood, no burned bridges. It was simply something I prayed about with my family and decided I needed to make sure that my flies stay in anglers' hands. And moving from Umpqua Feather Merchants to Montana Fly Company was not an easy decision to make. I prayed with my family, thought about it very hard, and it really came down to the fact that I wanted to make sure that my flies were available to anglers, and the cost of flies was a factor. Deliverables were a factor in fly shops, and then ultimately making sure that every fly that I use as a guide is one that's available. And after thinking about that and making the decision, I'm happy with the decision. And at the same time, it was a hard decision to make, and one that was tough because there's so many friends and mentors with Umpqua and so many great people that have done a lot of things for me. And it's a business thing, it's not a personal thing. But most importantly, when I decided to give my flies to Umpqua from the beginning, these were flies I developed for guiding. They were simply meant to help people catch more fish. And I think if I can get more flies in anglers' hands and make sure that's at an affordable cost, that's going to be the most important thing long term, and allow my flies to continue to have life and continue to help people down the road as well. So it was a hard decision, one I'm super excited about. Decision I think long term is going to bring all my flies, even ones that you haven't seen on the market, and make them affordable. I'm moving ahead, man. I'm just going to keep pushing and keep delivering, and keep designing the best I can. So I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, right. You know, probably 4 years ago, I did the same thing.
Yep, exactly.
So I moved from Umpqua Feather Merchant to MFC as well.
Hmm.
It was just the right move for me at the time as well,
Sure,
for a
sure.
lot of the same reasons. So one of the reasons, if you guys don't know Landon, you know that like over the last few episodes that we kind of talk about trophy hunting and what it takes to make that next step from just kind of catching numbers of fish to trying to catch a nicer fish. And so in the past, so far, I've had on quite a few streamer guys. And Landon has done a lot of work with, I'm sure, several guys. I know John Barr. He does a lot of it in his day-to-day guiding, where he is catching really nice trophy browns on smaller flies. And so I kind of wanted to bring him in and talk a little bit about that, about kind of not just maybe what bugs you're using, how you are approaching those fish, what kind of water you need to be able to pull off what you're doing. Just kind of tell us a little bit about your game, kind of what you kind of, I hate to say what you're known for, but what your program is.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. Well, it all starts, and this is 100% truth. I remember the day it changed for me. It all starts with leeches. I'm a huge, huge believer, man. They call me Leech Man for a reason. I was up on the North Platte River with the Hamrick brothers and John Barr, and we're fishing a Slumpbuster. And the back of the Slumpbuster was working fairly well that day. We were catching some fish, and the wire ended up breaking and busting. So it led to where you had the rabbit basically coming off the eye of the fly, and that fly was twitching and swinging and drifting through some of the shallow water, then going into the deep runs. And all of a sudden, the hookup ratio was just unbelievable. And I remember Jason told me, he's like, yeah, man, I used to get these giant cardboard boxes full of micro pine squirrel, and my ears started perking up, and I'm like, micro pine squirrel? I'm like, what's this all about? So he starts telling me about it and talking about some of his flies and how small you can make some of these, imitations to where it's not just a bait fish. You're starting to concentrate on things like leeches. And I remember going back to the house when I got done with the trip and looking in my box, and I didn't have anything close. So I decided to grab some of the skinniest looking rabbit and olive that I had, tied it onto a 2488H, and just tried to simplify the fly. And I palmed it around the eye or behind the eye, and then tailed off to where it was just straight up like a wing coming off the eye of the hook with a little bit of flash on the body. And I couldn't believe the next day with Dave Hoover on a guide trip just how productive that fly was. So I went home, man, and I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. And I started just, cranking. I started tying on bugs and trying to decide, how can I make this look like a leech? Obviously, years after that, just started investigating leeches. But ultimately, and I know you can appreciate this first and foremost with the giants you have on your waterway, it's what I think is happening, and this is what I believe in now and I have confidence in. And my game is about making a predator enticed, angry, pissed off to where you're getting the reaction strike. But what you can do with leeches and smaller bugs is you're not forcing that predator to the edge to where it's no longer out of its or in its comfort zone. You're forcing it out of its comfort zone. And when I realized that's what was happening, where the fly, the streamer's being chased by the giant brown 1,000 times, you throw the freaking kitchen sink, the fish won't take, you start crying profusely, enter therapy, what I'm
Yep.
saying? You're like, yeah, it's not taking. So mixing that up to where I started tying unweighted, and then I started using the jig hooks where I had the mini leech jig, the mini leech jig radiant, and the Mayor's mini leech. When I started nymphing those and dropping those below hoppers and started getting those to drift into these structure zones on the edge of rivers, and then started traveling about the globe, it was unbelievable, the response. Not only do you get that predator to really react, but by keeping it in its comfort zone, it's almost so much confidence in that fly that that's pretty much what I have on my rig 90% of the time. And it's changed the way that I think not only my clients can get into big fish, it changed the way I believe big fish feed. And it really has just allowed me to remain a student to where I'm continuing to try to evolve and try to see how these predators are coming out, man. And even talking about it now, man, it gets me all amped up. It gives me, those
Yeah.
butterflies.
Well, the deal is I've kind of said that forever about what we're doing. I don't feel like at all that we are feeding these fish. I mean, we get a huge portion of the fish that we catch down here are males. Well,
Yep.
it's because they're
Sure.
the most aggressive ones. We're getting aggression bites a lot of the times. That's why you can come here and you can throw a 4-inch fly and you're probably not going to get the bite that you may get off of a 7 or 8-inch fly because a 4-inch fly is not aggressive to that fish. A
Right.
7 or 8-inch fly is aggressive enough that they want to make that reaction bite, but you pull them out of that comfort zone that you mean. And like Dave Whitlock told me one time, I know I keep going back to him, but that was who
Yeah.
was under. He
Yeah.
goes, Chad, I don't want you to quit what you're doing, but I want to tell you something. He goes, I just want you to know it takes a special fish on a special day to eat that big streamer.
Mm-hmm.
But every one of those fish will eat a 2-inch minnow. And it's just basically going, don't forget, like you can get a reaction bite from them, but don't forget they also feed.
Oh, they have to.
Right? And
Exactly.
so, like, you're
Exactly.
reacting so much more to that feeding bite, and
Right.
it doesn't bring them out of that. That's their feeding mode. That's their natural, everyday thing that they do. What I'm trying to do to them when I drag those big streamers is I'm trying to piss them off, be in their face, be in their house.
Right.
They've got to run. And unless they're in that aggressive posture,
Yep.
then you don't get that bite.
Exactly.
And how often do we find them in that aggressive posture? So it's like, you know, I 100% understand like the difference between the two. That's kind of what's so cool about what you're doing. It's the difference. Us boys are getting reactions. You are feeding those fish, right?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I mean, I think of it like this, you know, you're at the Super Bowl party and you're getting ready to leave and everybody's saying their goodbyes and you walk past the table that has a few snacks left and you're like, oh, why not? I'll grab another one, just chew it down. And I think that's the way a lot of these large predatory fish are, you know, they're feeding, they're opportunistic. And then also, you know, from a juvenile state, they're also feeding on a lot of these different food supplies. And the cool thing about what leeches have led me to is understanding that a leech can imitate exactly that. It can be a leech. If I fish it a certain way and I twitch it and jiggle it, and, you know, swing it in a run, it can become a baitfish. If I pause and drop it, it can become a juvenile crayfish. If it's olive and below a dry fly, it's a swimming damsel nymph. And that's one of the things that I think I appreciate the most is that the leeches are not only bite-sized meals because like you're saying and like we both believe in, these fish have to feed. It's also extremely versatile. So it's now imitating what could be 2 to 3 different food supplies. So there's another way to really get those fish to react and trust that what they're doing is the right thing to take that fly. And it's just a game changer, man. I'm literally thankful for the day I had that experience with John Barr and the Hamrick brothers on the North Platte, but I'm also extremely thankful for the thought and the idea of just coming up with these leech patterns because it allows me to not only be confident in each day that I fish, it also allows me to target different seasons. So, you know, you can be pre and post spawn when the fish are migrating in the fall, let's say for the browns. But what a lot of people don't realize, and I learned this from your waters, it's the post spawn fishing for the browns when they're incredibly hungry. They're healed up and they're ready to maximize any bite-sized meal they can find, man. It's
Right.
unbelievable.
Yes. Yes. I mean,
That's
they're putting
huge.
on the feed sacks. I mean, they've been working,
Oh
you
yeah,
know? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. They've been working. And so, I mean, we even have that in like something as simple as some of the generic nymphs that we tie can
Yep,
imitate multiple things, right?
exactly.
And
Exactly.
so yeah, you found a way to make it fit multiple situations. Like you would feel very comfortable taking that to a smallmouth stream and feeding them a baby crawfish.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm
yeah,
excited. I'm excited for that. I got to come visit you and do some more of that. We've got some bass game in Colorado for sure, but I got to come and chase
yeah,
some of those red eyes, man.
yeah. Yeah, we've got a few spots now that we've got some pretty nice smallmouth fishing these days.
Heck yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
Our
awesome.
issue with our smallmouth game is like the places that we go to get them aren't very big,
Right.
and so they can't handle much pressure.
Sure.
And so that's really a huge reason why you don't see tons of people in our area, our guides, that are really pushing and trying to sell smallmouth, is
Right.
because most of our creeks can't handle that pressure. And
Sure.
so we're more inclined to have a customer here for the day and go, you know what, man, the White River's doing this right now, or such and such, such, such. But I've got this beautiful little smallmouth stream. If you want me to go
Right.
take you down it for the day, like they're on right now, and I'd love to take you. And if you don't mind me blindfolding you for 30 minutes, then we can go.
Exactly.
And so that's
Why you got
kind
a
of the
paper
way a
bag?
lot of our smallmouth fishing is. But
Yeah.
there is some really good smallmouth fishing around here that's I appreciate a lot, because for us, you got to realize, I mean, and I try not to put too much emphasis on this, but they are our native wild fish, you
Yeah.
know. So it's really
Sure.
cool to kind of get on our native wild fish. It's just kind of neat, and we have this really cool. I mean, it would be called a rock bass, a goggle eye, if it was anywhere else. But we have one that's actually specific to here that's called a. It's kind of, it would look like a rock bass or something like that, but it's actually an Ozark bass. And you
Oh, cool.
only find it on the White River watershed. It's the
Nice.
only place it's period. And so
Wow.
it's always kind of cool to catch one of those and, you know, be like, all right, yeah, cool. You can only catch this here. So, I mean, I kind of
Heck
get
yeah.
some of that stuff. Like I say, I try not to get too much in it because there's so many now. There's so many fisheries now that are tailwaters or weren't what they were before that now have 50, 60, 70 years behind them
Hmm.
that are turning into real fisheries,
Oh
right?
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
not to call anything fake, but you know what I mean? They begin to like ours, you know, even in the fact that, you know, when I came here, the river was 50 years old. Well, we didn't have a lot of bug life. I mean, we had midges, we had a decent little caddis hatch, but it was just that, a decent little caddis hatch.
Yeah.
And now I've been here 20 years and we have a prolific caddis hatch. We have a giant prolific mayfly hatch, a sulfur. And we just see our bug life getting better and better and better because we had all those warm water bugs before.
Sure.
Well, it's taken a period of time for those cold water bugs to establish themselves.
Right.
And so they're just, I mean, to the point that we're kind of all sitting around going, well, I can't wait to see what's next, you know,
Right. Yeah.
because I mean, they keep showing up in different things and we're seeing a few different little things like on our lakes and different things that we're going, I wonder if some of these will come over, you know, now that we have this cold water. I wonder if we'll begin to get a couple more where, I mean, our dream is that we would get a big bug, you know,
Yeah.
of some sort. That would be so
You're like, we're
cool.
gonna get some
I don't
big
know if that'll
stones.
ever happen, but
Yeah.
that would be so sweet to have a
Exactly.
big bug.
Yeah.
But no, it's been nice to see over the years how the rivers just kind of come around and begin to really produce some pretty cool dry fly fishing.
Yeah. That's epic.
So, you said that you fish your leeches like a huge percentage of the time now. Like you're saying that like between that array, but I've also seen some of your early work with John that, and I don't even know where you were. I remember years and years ago watching a video of you and John Barr catching giant fish on Copper Johns and
Yeah.
things like that, and y'all were all sight fishing, and
Yeah.
so I know over the years you've had those experiences with those bugs and
Absolutely.
producing big fish. I mean, obviously that's kind of time and place, right? Like,
Sure.
I mean, are there times now that you going and you're sight fishing that you are using other things? I mean, there's a hatch going on. You're not putting a leech on.
No, it's 100% true. Like I'll have, the Copper John game, the attractor with the nymphs. I mean, that still is a part for sure. I mean, if we have red as an attractor color, spring and fall, we've got green with the caddis. And when I say leeches, it's just attaching it to the different disciplines instead of. I think now I'm really turning on to the dry dropper game beyond just on the edge of the bank or just doing it when you start seeing bigger bugs. It's a better way for me to navigate shallow water. It's a better way for me to navigate and match the hatch. So that's played a huge part. And then there's always, I love double trouble rigs where you're doing the nymphs and you're doing the leeches and you're mixing those together. And it's a
Yes.
solo leech game, if you want to swing it or streamer style, you can definitely do that. And if it's an anchor fly and a Euro rig, that's a great way to perform and get results as well. But yeah, the Copper John is still a staple and other bugs too. I mean, you mentioned dries, like we've had so many fish now. For example, we'll have our migration come up in the spring and we get fish that hold over in the summer. But what we're starting to find is on our tailwater, we'll have the browns come up in the fall and then they're pushing water. And the reason they're pushing water is they're trying to get it through some of the areas, get it past through the cities, wherever the supply and demand is. When that happens, though, our browns, we're starting to see 26, 28, 30-inch browns that will hold over. And the next thing you know, June, July, August, and we've got these fish sipping tricos. We've got these fish
Oh, wow.
sucking in PMDs. And we're like, you get that freak fish and you're going, dang, not only are these fish opportunistic and nocturnal, but they're literally coming out from wherever they're hiding under the bank or, rocks or wherever it is that they find comfort in the river. and they're focusing on the hatch. It's not as long as the other fish, and the smaller fish will stand it all day. But in the thick of the hatch, when you have a blanket or there's complexity, you've got these monsters feeding, and they go back to hiding. It's truly impressive to see that. So I've become a huge believer in the dry dropper game, a big believer in hatches. And, from guiding in Alaska before, the one thing I learned, and that was when I was 23 years old, and this stuck with me the whole time. I remember Don Meehan looked at me and he said, the one thing, Landon, you're going to learn from this experience is that your migration is a migration of fish to feed. It's not a migration for spawn. So when you see these fish moving about the system to eat eggs, you see them moving around to eat flesh flies or eat some of the bigger bugs, bigger dry flies, bringing that back to my house, it was like home waters and sitting at the house thinking, all right, what are these fish doing? That's what they're doing, man. They're migrating up midsummer. And those are, as you know, those are kind of the secret seasons where that, July, August, the browns move 3 months early. And next thing you know, you've got these fish in the river system eating their asses off for 2 months. So I love that part of it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Our fish are definitely moving way earlier than the spawn.
Yeah, for sure.
They're not just moving up like, hey, it's time to spawn and here we are.
Exactly.
Right? Our fish will begin to push upriver. Yes, absolutely they do.
Yeah, love that.
We are not seeing our giants, or I'm not seeing our giants on our caddis hatch per se.
Okay.
Not those fish over 2 foot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because our bugs are all over the place. I don't really know exactly why, but on the sulfur hatch, it's totally different. Yeah. They're coming out of the jams. They're coming off of the bottoms. And all of a sudden, you're looking over and there's a 26, 27-inch fish up and eating sulfurs,
Yeah, exactly.
And it's so new for us.
Yeah.
I've told several of the boys at the new shop and all at a Diamond State, that if you want to make your name here now, don't chase what's already been done. We have a new dry fly fishery coming aboard. Mm-hmm. Be the next dry fly guy.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Get that game buttoned down. And that's what you can do here, because we have giant fish on dries. It doesn't get any better than that. We've never had it. We've never had it before. And so, it's a very, very exciting kind of thing that started happening with us here. So we have, in my opinion, we've been a very dirty fishery, right?
Sure.
Mops, mops and girdle bugs and just different things, to get those fish to feed, because we haven't had the bug life that y'all have. It's more sculpin and minnows and so to see a true dry fly fishery starting to come about is pretty cool. I went over to one of my buddy's house here about a year ago, and older gentleman lives on the river, and I said, yeah, on the way over here, I stopped and caught 4 or 5 on dries. And he was like, what do you mean? And I went, well, I stopped and caught 4 or 5 browns on sulfurs. And he goes, where? I was like, your backyard? And he goes, no. And I went, dude, come here. Let's walk down to the river. And we walked down to the river, and there was just this blanket hatch of sulfurs in his backyard on the river. And he goes, Chad, do you know how much money I've spent to travel the country to fish dry flies? He goes, could you take me fishing? And I was like, yeah, dude, come on, we can take you fishing. But so it's that new that a man would be a fly fisherman, own a place on the river, and not even know they were there, because he didn't know to look for them, because that's how new it is.
100%.
And so,
100%.
Yeah, so very, very exciting for us. That's kind of a mid-June through July event. About we get 5 good weeks.
Okay.
And then a little a week and a half trickle in the front and a week trickle in the back, and it's a late game. They don't come off till 4:00 in the evening.
Oh, I love that.
So you got to do the late game.
It's the best.
And the funny thing right now is, so a lot of times here these last few years, we've had big water through that time. And you're sitting there thinking, oh crap, they're crushing it. It's not going to work. And no, all of these fish, the bugs are coming off. All of the fish are stacking up behind brush tops. And like when you pull up, there's not a fish.
Yeah.
There's 15.
Yeah. And they're
Yeah.
all sitting there just gorging. Yeah.
Gorging
Yeah.
behind all these brush tops. So
Exactly.
it's been a lot of fun. Of course, I'm dealing with a lot bigger river and a lot more water than you're having to mess with over there, which is
Sure.
very cool. The differences between the two.
Oh,
Two,
huge.
you don't
Huge.
have you always have somewhere to go fish the type of water you want for the day.
Yes. Yep.
Is that a true statement? Is that
It's
right? For the
it's
most
true.
part,
It's true.
unless you have, yeah, yeah, because you can bust to the Stillwater, to the river. No, I'm
Exactly.
going over to the wading creek today. You
Yeah.
have so many things accessible to you, right?
Totally. The diversities. I mean, that is really what led me back to Colorado. I mean, when I guided on the Knack in Alaska for a year, a lot of people asked me questions like, why would you not stay in AK or, traveling abroad to South America? And every single spot that I traveled to, I would literally ask myself the question, does this resemble as much diversity as what I have in South Park? And the answer is no.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what allows me the chance. These 200 miles in one of the largest plateau basins in North America. It's unbelievable. And on the flip side, which you and I know, we know this firsthand. It also forces you to be on your A game. Like when you're on the Stillwater and you're like expecting it to happen, and the wind starts blowing 50, and then you're like, oh, you got to go down and do the river. Then the river's heated up. I mean, you just got to make the adjustments. So it's worth it, man. It's worth it in the long run. But yeah, I love that part of it, being able to change it up and dial it in for sure. Definitely thankful for it.
well, on top of like I'm kind of on my fishery every day,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? When you're working 6 different fisheries, to know what's happening on each one of them on a given day.
Oh yeah.
I mean, A
Miles.
game,
Yeah.
right? Like I
Miles.
get to spend every day. I know what happened the day before. I go back out. If it
Yeah.
didn't work, and I know what my plan B is. Like, but I mean, I have to deal with all that up and down water. But I get to do it on a daily basis where I don't have to know 5 fisheries. I got to know
Exactly.
2. I need to know what's
Yeah.
happening. Yeah, I need to know what's
It's
happening
true.
on the White, and I need to know what's happening on the Norfolk.
Yeah.
Outside of my smallmouth season, and so it's just yeah, what a different game.
Completely. Yeah. And that, I mean, to be honest, if I asked myself this question, it would be true. It's before, I would say, when I started out my first 10 years, I felt like I knew some of these fisheries. But now, you hit a couple decades where you're forced because things change, water changes, fisheries change. And next thing you know, you have to learn them all. That's really the reason I fall in love with not only rivers, but the Stillwater game too, because it gives you options when it's, the challenge of not only catching larger fish. And I'll say it because I think this is true. My clients today never been out on a belly boat, never fished still waters. The one thing still waters do is it forces you. It's like being in the salt or being in the flats or going after redfish. You're in control of your line. And if you're not in control of your line, you don't have a current, nothing's helping you drift your line. From the start to the end of everything, you have to be able to cast, manage line, hook fish, fight fish. All of it comes to hand. And I think that in turn helps you become a better angler on the river. So it's nice to see people transition and, make those adjustments and build confidence in something they probably were too intimidated to try to fish before. That's how I was when I was young. And now that I have confidence, it allows you a chance to be a better angler and learn from it too. So it's pretty fun, man. I'm definitely thankful.
I heard there that you said belly boat. So when you go into these lakes, you're not like wading the banks and that kind of thing. You're going out in a belly boat and turning around and fishing back to the bank.
Well, it's a little bit, so that's where it gets super interesting. So I'll just break down what happened this year. This year, the reservoir, it opened at 47% capacity. First time since 1981. And we're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? So then the banks and the shorelines I used to fish, and at one point I had a flats boat, a hog island. The flats disappeared. Water was dropping. So then I've got my 3-man fly craft. I've got the oars. I've got on foot where I usually can wade and stalk. But this year, because it's so low, And these fish are so temperamental in open, big sky country. You can't even get up on a platform on a boat, or they're gone. So the only way that I've been able to find these fish, because the shoreline where edge fishing has disappeared, is to literally be waist deep in the water. So they can't see within that dome. And it's surprising how many people will stand up in a boat and wait for the fish to come. But what they don't realize, and you know this firsthand, that fish has seen you way back and it's already bolted on a new path to feed. So it being on the belly boats is not my first choice, but it's the only choice we have right now. And it's,
Yeah.
it's fun. It brings me to my youth when I couldn't afford a boat and I had to get out to kick my ass off all
Yeah.
day.
Well, I mean, if
So
it's
it's
the best
fun.
tool for the job, it's the
Yeah,
best tool for the job, right?
exactly.
I mean,
Exactly. Yeah. And
yeah, you go out there and stand on top of a boat and spook their fish off all day and take their money, or you can take them out
yeah,
and use the right tool. Yeah,
mix it up.
there's nothing
Mix it
wrong
up.
with that.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's fun. It's definitely fun for sure.
So do you have so you're doing the flatwater thing. Do you what about your rivers? When we're saying rivers, so I'm saying a river, and today on my river I had 20,000 CFS.
Sure.
So when you're talking rivers, are we talking like are they smaller creeks? Are they mid-sized rivers? So kind of what
Yeah.
are we talking about?
Small. So what makes the dream unique is you're talking about a river that today, for example, it's running 112 CFS. During the summer, it probably gets up to 600. The Arkansas River in Pueblo, that's about 650 right now. And then the Blue River in Silverthorne, that's running about 225. So there's smaller river systems, but what makes them unique is that they flow into big bodies of reservoirs, or they flow to the point where they have enough depth and speed that the fish can migrate up into them. And, being 100 right now, the saving grace for us is we have tailwaters, so it keeps it cool. But we also get dog days of summer. And I've learned, because I've had, and you've been there too, it's like you have so many fish you think are healthy when they swim off. And as soon as I get anywhere near that 67, 68, I'm like, we got to switch. We got to go do something else and find the cooler water. But it's relatively speaking, I'd say an average of 250 to 500 on a regular basis during the summer. And high flows would be 12 to 1300. It's swift and narrow,
Okay.
and yeah, it's a lot of walkway. But the Arkansas and the Freestone side of it, further up in the valley, a chance to float that and a chance to get people into that fish game. It can be fun and it is worthwhile. The challenge is if you get any of that moisture off the 14,000 foot peaks, man, and you committed a 2 hour drive, it's hard to turn around and then find another zone. So you just got to be careful you
Yeah.
don't blow the day. It's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like right now, dog days of summers. I mean, right now I'm meeting people just after daylight, and we're going out and we're fishing. And let's be honest, the first 3 hours are great, and we're catching fish on hoppers and having fun. And then that sun gets up and bold, and that crap's over with, and they aren't going to come up and eat for
No,
nothing. And I've
exactly.
got to go to girdle
Exactly.
bugs,
You
and
got to be careful.
I'm still gonna pick up a few
sure.
more for the day, but like by 1 o'clock, it's done. Like you're not catching anything else, and you can go target some rainbows. Here we can kind of do that about any time, and you can make the rest of your day. But I mean, they're just not doing it. Yeah, I mean, unless you come back out and you do the late evening thing, but then you don't really get in many hours. Now that I understand a little more about what water you're fishing, I just want to bounce back a little bit and talk about some of the leech fishing. Every month I try to give the guys and girls kind of some nuggets, right? So let's say I was going to fish a small creek for trout that obviously, I mean, most of our waterways have leeches, I would think. Is that right? Do most of our waterways? I mean, leeches are pretty prolific, right?
Yeah, they're very prolific. There's, I would say, at least 75% of the waters you fish are going to have big numbers. And if not big numbers, the leeches can represent, which we touched on a little bit before, crayfish, baitfish, damsel nymphs, even swimming nymphs too. So you can mix and match. If your waterways don't have prolific amounts of leeches, you're just trying to have versatility and try to match another food supply.
Yeah, okay. So the question I was going to ask is so if I'm approaching Small Creek, we're fishing for trout, it's got leeches. What's your first approach? Like, how would, if these guys want to go and they go, okay, Landon, I'm biting on the leech thing. All right, I want to go out and I want to try it. They're on a small creek. What's the approach? How do you approach it? What would you do? What would be your first thing you'd try? How would you look at that or break that down?
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that question too, Chad. It's so when I love teaching anglers, because it's common for a lot of anglers to become very comfortable and it's very effective, obviously, with most of the food supply being subsurface to jump right into nymphs, jump right into the Euro game, even streamers going down deep, mid column, even deep when you're swinging and trying to search the bottom. With leeches, I actually do this in reverse. I start from the top and then work my way down. So if I were to first approach leeches, I would try to match it with top water game, whether it's an attractor or you're matching the hatch. I believe that when a fly slaps the water, like a hopper is a good example, when the hopper hits, you capture the attention of the fish. Whether or not they take, they're going to feel the vibration. They see the movement from above, they see the shadow from below, and it allows them to lift up. And the cool thing about leeches, if the trout doesn't commit to break the surface where they can be exposed to predators and they're wary or nervous, you're going to intercept those fish with the leech hanging below. So I start usually with the top water dry dropper game. And then if that doesn't work, then I'll start working down to the mid column. And the mid column can be the fly on a Euro rig, on a nymph rig. It can even be swinging flies mid column. But if you're mid column, a lot of times those are moving or drifting food supplies. So that's the second way.
Yes, a little more animated.
Exactly. Totally. 100% animation. And that's great that you bring that up because what that represents, in my opinion, is a leech that's balanced. And the cool thing about a lot of the small leeches, when I attach them with an improved clench knot, the mini leech jig, for example, when my pattern is attached to that knot, it rides balanced. So any bump, wave, riffle, or strip, it's going to move and it's going to jig up and down, which I think is a huge advantage because you're capturing the trout's attention. And as you and I both love, and we know with bigger fish, you're dealing with predators and it's going to capture their attention and get them a chance to come over and do that reaction strike. So that's the balance game in animation is definitely huge. And then if you do a non-slip mono loop knot, then you add movement to the fly. And I typically do that when I swing flies. Instead of it being clinched right at the eye of the hook, I'll just swing it like you would with the streamer. And then you give yourself a chance to really move it on the bottom. And then lastly, if you're bottom fishing, if you're popping them off the bottom or you're drifting close to the bottom, you can gauge on a 90-degree nymph rig. You can get close to the bottom. You can even jig in deep sections or deep buckets, especially in narrow waterways where you're jigging the streamer up and down versus swinging or retrieving. But you're trying to get that fly to be as low to the bottom as possible. And I believe that's when the crayfish bite comes to hand. So one of my favorite ways to tie the leeches is to do crawdad orange with a blue body or a green body, or you can do olive for the juvenile crayfish and you just pop and drop it on the bottom.
Yep. Okay. All of that makes perfect sense to me. So if you was to approach a body of water like mine, see if I were like right now, if you said, okay, Chad, here's this leech, fish this leech.
Sure.
I would probably, for us, I would go find slow water cut banks, deep cut banks. I'd put it 4 foot under something and dead drift it down the bank. That would be my first inkling to go, okay, how will I fish this thing? That would be my first approach. But
Sure.
what you've seen our river, obviously when you seen it, you got to see it low. You didn't really get to see it kicking, but you come up on, you come up on a 10,000 CFS river. You're not swinging that thing in a riffle, that type thing. So, is there an approach with that, or is there a certain volume of water that you begin to get washed out, or how would you approach that situation? Like if my boys here wanted to try it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of those things I've always stuck with, and I believe this, especially after fishing your water, even though it was low, I could visualize what it was like when it was high. You could see the high water mark. And the biggest thing about it for me, when I'm doing the leech game in big waterways, instead of trying to attract the fish where they're not looking up or they're not always going to be apt to do something close to the surface or a smaller food supply, then you can do double trouble rigs. For example, if you put the leech trailing off a larger streamer, and that way when the fish comes over to chase the big streamer, instead of committing to take that fly, if you have a leech trailing off the back on a loop knot, the fish is going to see the smaller snack and oftentimes take that. Or in reverse, you can have it leading a larger streamer where the streamer's chasing a smaller bait fish, chasing the leech. And then it's something that's a double trouble rig where you're going to piss the bigger fish off. And I remember on your banks, one of the things I was wanting to do the next time I'm in your neck of the woods, high and low water, is if there is opportunities to use something large like a mouse or something big to really attract the fish, as we know with Whitlock's history in mouse fishing and all the big fish over there that are willing to eat rodents, is to just tie it larger. So when I tie my leech, it's typically tied with micro pine squirrel. But if I use micro mink, it has a larger profile. I can upsize the hook from like a 6 to an 8 to a 10, even a 12. And then you have a bigger profile where you can drop it below something large on the bank. And again, if you wanted to trail it off of a streamer, you could do that as well. So double trouble rigs are something I've started working with in bigger waterways. And even, you don't always see the fish rise, which I think a lot of people are led to reading water, as you mentioned, which is huge. Find the productive zones, the eddies, the side edges, the washouts, the cut banks. And if you find those zones and there isn't a fish rising, again, there's always the chance to get that fish to look up, even if they're not willing to commit. And a rodent's a great way to do that. We actually tried that and were effective doing that with golden dorado in Argentina. It was pretty cool to see them react.
Okay. Yeah, that's very cool. Okay.
Yeah, so it's fun stuff for sure.
Yeah, I mean, my boys here, obviously we have some leeches, and I mean, I don't know how exactly, I don't think they're crazy prolific, but we definitely, I mean, you go out and flip over a few rocks, you're going to find some leeches. And I know there's really not anybody here now, using that or using that technique. And so it's, at least for me, I'm a fly nerd. I love new flies, new techniques. Teach me a new way to catch a big fish, and I'm all over it, right? I mean, and so I'm sure me and my boys will be out trying a couple of things. And we talked earlier, your flies are available through MFC, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Starting now, we're onboarding everything. So within the year, we'll have all the flies transferred over, onboarded, and they are already designing and tying and producing and distributing the mini leech jigs and the mini leeches, which I'd love to get your feedback and your boys too, just to see the reaction of a lot of those flies. And the Radiant series especially, Chad, if you have a chance to fish the color combos like white and pink, orange and black, rust and green, just something that really can get the fish fired up. That'd be cool to hear the response.
Okay. Yeah. Can't wait to see those. And we've had some experiences like that. Like whenever I first come here and, we were nymphing, one of the things the boys would always use was a little micro jig, and that micro jig was very leechy. And man, I mean, the boys caught the crap out of them with them. And just over the years, you know how it is. Over the years, like I've got flies that I just don't use anymore. I know they still work as good as they ever did. And I don't know, I think we find a bug and it's working and we stick with it a while and then we go here and we go there. And like, it's fun to go back in old boxes and pull back out some of the old stuff that you fished and see if it still works. And 90% of it still works just as good as it always did. I don't know why I quit using it. It gets stuffed in the back of a box somewhere and I found something a new shiny toy to play with. But,
Exactly.
But no, that leech game is very, very, very interesting. And I don't hear tons about it. And it's funny how we can overlook some things that our fish are feeding on, and we think we've kind of got it pinned down, but they're kind of out there eating all kinds of stuff. It's really cool that it seems like every 2 or 3 years I'll hear something and go, oh, well, yeah, I mean, we have those. Why wouldn't that work here?
Yeah.
And it's really cool to bring in some of these things from other fisheries that it's not that they don't work here. They just haven't been tried here. you know,
Oh,
that
totally.
type thing. I mean,
100%.
when I got here, I mean, my goodness, when I got here, everybody was just long line nymphing, San Juan worms, egg patterns with midges and sow bugs type game, whether it was low or high. And
Right.
they would go up for the shad kill. They would go up and
Yep.
fish a floating shad and sunken shad for the shad kill when that would come through. And then way back in the day, they would catch them on the spawn. And that was really the only times they caught brown trout, except during the spring when they were fishing worms. They would catch a few brown trout doing that.
Yeah.
But really,
Wow.
they'd just catch those brown trout doing that when we were fishing for the rainbows, you know.
Hmm.
And the brown trout were more something that the bait fishermen got.
Absolutely.
And then we just kind of, a couple of us young guys come in and started doing some things that they were doing in other places, and everybody kind of told us it wouldn't work here, and of course it worked. I mean, they're trout, right? And
Exactly.
it was so new to everybody that they were just like, no, Chad, that's not how we catch our fish. And I'm like, well,
Right.
I know, but I think we ought to try it. You know,
Get off the conventional ways. Yeah.
yeah, and so like anytime you can introduce something new like that, it's pretty cool. Here just a couple years ago, I actually hadn't said a lot about this, but we have catawba worm trees all over our rivers. And as a kid, I remember, I mean, we would go to the neighbor's house, buy catawba worms, and catch catfish and bass and all kinds of things, right? And
Sure.
never even dawned on me. I mean, been here guiding at that point for like 15 years, looking at all
Right.
those trees, you know. And then I got a house here in town, and it had a catawba worm tree, and they started falling on my deck. I
Hmm.
said deck, as in my
Yeah.
porch. Yeah. One of our other things read funny on the paper earlier. And they started falling on my porch, and it was just like a light bulb. I was like, Chad, you idiot. You know they're eating these things. So I went and tied my best little worm pattern there, and went immediately to the river, went down the cotter wall, and I caught 4 brown trout on the cotter wall the very first time I threw it. And I just wrapped it up and went home and was like, I can't believe that I missed that all these years.
Yeah.
How
I know,
crazy is
right?
it that they were right there staring me in the face, and I'm even pointing at them and going, "Oh, hey, look at those trees with the beans on them," you know. I mean, and
Yeah.
never thinking about the worm that's there to eat them, you know. And so that
It's
it's just
amazing.
funny how we always you think you've kind of got a place pegged and that kind of thing, and you can really come up with these new little tactics or techniques that you may
Oh,
not have
it's
tried, but they
huge.
can blow it up. And so, like, I really will go try this little leech game and see
Yeah.
if it
You should,
does
man.
something here. I'll have to get you to email me a couple of pictures of patterns, and I'll tie a couple of things
Yeah.
up. And
Time up, man. You'll like them. It's unique you say that too, because the reason not many anglers, even ones that are fans of the leeches, have asked the question, but the way that the mini leech jig was even designed for myself is I would watch conventional anglers come up to our river, the Dream Stream, other fisheries, and they were using those tube jig, the white and pumpkin seed.
yeah,
And they would literally pull up to the deep runs, cast out. I'm downstream guiding, 2 or 3 folks, and I'm watching this guy literally or gal slay using these tube jigs, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, first things first, I like got out of there as fast as possible. So my clients weren't watching them hang fish all day. And then I came
now
back.
when you say tube jig, what do you mean?
Like the tube jigs, kind of the octopus looking white and pumpkin seed jigs
Yes, that they used to catch like
on the jig
crappie
hooks.
with. The little
Exactly.
bitty ones like they use for
The little
crappie?
ones.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay, go
Two
ahead. Go
two
ahead.
inchers.
So you got out of there with your customer.
Got out of there, and I went home and immediately did the same thing in comparison to like what you were talking about with the worms. I just designed something where it was a smaller jig leech, simplistic in its tie, but also weighted enough where if you get like a 3.2 tungsten slotted bead, it's going to sink like a missile. And we went up the very next day and started doing the same thing with white and pink. And I did white on white, which worked, but then adding that pink was just a little bit different color change in the spectrum. Plus, I could use it in different seasons. And what really took it to another level for me is I was up on the Kvichak River with John Barr, and we were in Alaska, and they were fishing a lot of their baitfish imitation because they had some of the baitfish running. And I'll never forget it. We're floating down, and JB's like, you know what? Let's just put a Slumpbuster, or let's put one of my flies below an indicator, and let's just dead drift this thing. And once we started doing that on the Queej in one of the side channels, where you'd only hook one or two fish swinging or retrieving the streamer, as soon as he did that, all of a sudden we started hooking up fish every single drift, and it was a natural imitation. Came back home and started doing the same thing with just single leeches or as my anchor fly on the bottom. And it's changed the game for myself and most importantly for my clients. I mean, that the hookup ratio on still waters and rivers for me with the leech game is not only for big fish, but just numbers of fish, because the food supply is prolific. It's an attractor. And like you said, it's trying something different. And I'm a huge fan as well as breaking the conventional mold. And
Right.
anytime I have customers, I'm always telling them, like, bring your flies, let's try something new, let's mix it up. And then once you find the golden nugget, you're like, okay, now we got to mix it up again.
Yep.
It's fun, man. It's worth it.
Nope. I had a guy get in my boat 2 days ago that broke out his hopper box, and I was just like, man, that ain't really what we use, but
Yeah.
God, that one right there is awful sexy. Like, let's try it on. And
Yeah.
and dude, it caught. Like, we done great
yeah.
with it. And I was
That's
like,
great.
do you mind if I keep that one as a pattern? And he was like,
Yeah.
yeah, dude, you can have it. And so, like, I actually kept it as a pattern. And
Nice.
it's funny. It's funny, like, I hate to say like us inventors, but the guys that come up with different patterns and different flies and that kind of thing, kind of how things come about, like the worm, like your leech, from seeing that tube jig and different things. The sluggo for me, I was actually going, everybody fishes it for trout, and I was actually going to Alabama to a bass lake, and
Sweet.
I wasn't getting action out of my big 7-inch deceivers in dead water. And so I developed the sluggo so I could
Nice.
get action in dead water.
Yeah.
And I actually go do the trip, do great, work great. I have a friend call me and he goes, dude, I'm crushing them on that buck. And I was like, where are you bass fishing? And he goes, bass fishing? Dude, I'm fishing the white for trout with it. And I was like, really? I usually use deceivers.
Sure.
And so,
Sure.
like, I wasn't even the first person to feed a sluggo to a trout. Like, I wasn't even what I made it for. I made that fly to go bass fishing. And
That's
so it's
right.
just funny how things come about for us, and kind of how you
Oh,
run
it's
into
huge.
those things through your career that you're like, you said it a minute ago, those little nuggets. You got to keep your eyes open for things like that happen. And
It's big.
I had a
Big, man.
scenario we talked about on one of my podcasts, but where my ex-wife had some handicaps, and we went spin fishing, and I realized that when her hand would come off the reel and the fly would free fall to the bottom, the next time she'd get her hand back on the reel, she'd have a fish on. And I'm sitting there working the rig and trying to bounce it and do all kinds of stuff, and I'm not catching jack.
Yeah.
And she is wearing me out, and she can't hardly hold the rod. And so I'm like, holy crap, they're eating that on the fall. And I immediately start doing it, and it starts this whole progression that turns from smallmouth into trout with several different bugs that really 100% changed my mentality and my game on streamer fishing. Like 100%. I mean, not that I'm not still doing a lot of the things I was doing before, but to add that part of the game, and as good as it's been for me, is just a game changer. And I just realized it off of a day at the creek when the fish were eating it on the fall. And it
Exactly.
started this whole development of new flies and new techniques, and so you really got to keep your eyes open for the nuggets. They're easy to miss, right? Like something happens and you go,
Huge.
Oh yeah, that was cool. She caught a couple of fish. No,
Yeah,
wait a minute. Why did she catch those two fish and you can't
exactly.
catch crap? You know,
Exactly.
and so maybe that's what makes you the professional that you are, is like being able to grab a hold of those nuggets and actually take them and turn those into fish for our customers.
It's huge. I think, honestly, Chad, I think that's where fly design in its organic state comes from. I think it's not sitting down, and I know a lot of anglers believe that maybe in the off season or when you're at home, you're sitting down and you're developing a fly. You're exactly right. It's witnessing something that triggers the simple details that make you go home and crank out something that's more complex. But it all starts with the simple details that you get, those nuggets. And it's amazing that I think because of our situational awareness as anglers, but most importantly guides, you see the whole picture. And when we start seeing the whole
On a
picture,
daily
we're
basis.
on the daily, man, we see it and we're just like, oh my gosh, whether it's fighting the fish or fly design or location or certain, time of day, all of that comes into play. And then when we analyze it at night and we crank something out till 1 in the morning, we come in the next day and we're super juiced up, ready to try something new. Even if it fails, it starts the journey, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, that's right. Oh,
Yeah.
dude. Hey, yeah. There's how many times of something that you tried didn't work on the first time? Most,
Most, if not, yeah,
and
if
then
not
you go
90,
home
yeah.
and you go, okay, why didn't it work? Okay, maybe I need to do this. Maybe I need to do that. Maybe I need to fish it on a different water. The blah 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 blah. But we go
Exactly.
through those scenarios to try to break that down. And let's be honest. I mean, it's hard.
It's hard. Yeah,
Right?
it's
To
very
figure
hard.
out what those fish are down there doing and when they're
It's
doing it and when they're going to
yeah,
eat and when they're not going to eat. And
it's
like,
crazy.
yeah, that's
It's
a great
crazy.
fishery, but we can't go there today because the oxygen level is low, because this flow isn't right. And to fish that particular section, we need 500 CFS and it's at 600, just whatever that scenario is. And to be able to retain all that knowledge and information and spit it back out for our customers, like,
Yeah, it's huge.
that's the big deal. It's not the untangling your knots.
Yes,
It's not
right.
rowing your boat.
No, no,
Those aren't the things that you're paying for.
right.
Those are the byproducts. That's just part of the program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
a
yeah.
hundred
So
percent. Yeah, man,
it's so cool.
it's
It's
so
it's
cool.
it's it's a very very fun game that we've gotten to partake in, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm
So what
thankful
do you
for
have?
it.
So, and I know we've got some time under our belt here and all, but like, if you have any one thing going on right now, like what do you have going on? What do you, like, do you have any big trips that you're trying to sell? Are you like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's well, I appreciate you asking. As you know, it's never ending. But I'm coming up on next weekend. We have our big event, which is Clean the Dream. It's where we clean up all of South Park. So we're 10-year anniversary of that. Usually 2,400 pounds is what we gather. We clean all the fisheries. We have about 300 volunteers. So we're all shocked and disbelief that it's 10 years running now. It seems like it was yesterday. So that's coming up next week, and then I'm going to embark on a journey. I guided in Alaska on the Naknek River in 2002 for 16 weeks, and I'm super stoked to be back there hosting a trip on Lower Tulare Creek. So that's the end of September, and I'm going to be up in your neck of the woods actually, and that's coming up October 18th. And I'm going to be doing a presentation and a dinner, and I wanted to talk to you afterwards and see if you got time to get on the boat together on
Yeah, dude.
Saturday or Monday. So I'll bring some
I
boxes
don't
and
work weekends, so I should be around.
yeah, we'll do that. And the biggest thing for me coming up is I think it's the celebration of being back on the wagon, obviously being healthier now, being able to host some trips, and tomorrow's my big B day. I'm turning 46, which I can't believe. So
All right.
I'm
Happy
gonna
birthday.
thank you, brother. Yeah, I'm gonna be out with my little
Yeah.
man, and we're gonna go fish Spinney Reservoir. So I'll be with my son and celebrating a day of fishing. And people ask me all the
Awesome.
time. It's yeah, well, and you know this because it's in our blood. But they ask, have you ever gotten burnt out? And I tell everybody that the day I don't wake up in the morning and still get jitters and butterflies about fishing, man, is the day I'll quit. So I'm stoked to be doing that with him tomorrow. But yeah, I'm stoked to be doing this podcast with you too, brother.
Yeah, everybody kind of flips out, don't they? They go, well, what are you doing on your time off? You're like, well, I'm going to go fishing. And they're like,
Fishing, man.
aren't you tired of it? And you're like, guys, you
No.
don't understand. Like, me taking you fishing is
Yes,
not me getting to fish. I don't,
Exactly.
me and you don't
Exactly.
fish for a living.
no,
We
no,
don't
we
fish for
don't.
bass. Pro bass fishermen fish for a living. They get
Exactly.
paid for them going out and catching
Right.
big fish. We
Right.
do not get paid to go out and catch big fish.
We don't.
Nobody
We don't.
gives a crap what me and you can catch.
Exactly.
Right? Nobody
true.
cares.
It's
We
true.
can post pictures of the biggest giant holding it, all
Yeah.
that good stuff. Nobody cares.
No, not at all.
Go and put that freaking 10-year-old kid or that
Yeah.
old man or go the older lady, go put them on a fish and let them
Right.
hold that big fish. And then people go, ooh,
Yeah.
they like that. Like nobody
Yes.
cares what we catch.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
It's the exactly.
Yeah.
It's always I'm interested in this all the time, but I think it was well said by one of my clients, and he told me, he goes, it's not about the reward. It's about the challenge that leads you to the reward. And that's what we do, man. We challenge ourselves every day being on the water, and we're at the whim of Mother Nature, which is the hardest commission-based job on the planet, dude. So I'm thankful to be a part of it.
I'm
Sure.
telling my dad, like the hardest part of my job for me is that it's the only job in my life I've ever had that I can go to work and bust my butt and put in 100% and still end up with nothing to show for it at the end of the day.
Sure.
And I've never had a
100%.
job like that. I've
No.
always been able to step back and go, all right, look at the productivity I had today. Look at this that I built
Sure.
today. Look at the, and on those days that are tough, it can be tough. I take it personally.
I do too. It's like I don't sleep well at night from that, man. It's like you gotta figure it out. And as you know, I call my fly tying nook the lab, man. You gotta go in the lab and figure it out. And the other thing I'll leave the listeners with this, because it's huge. And I tell the younger guys this, it's not about how many fish you catch. What it's about is being prepared to catch those fish. Like preparation is the key to success, and that starts on the vise the night before, a week before. It starts getting your rigs ready. We're always contemplating where we're going to go. It's like we're visualizing the trip before it happens. And if you're doing that and you're passionately living the day and vicariously living through your clients, that's what makes you the best guide on the water. Not the best guide compared to others, but the best guide that you can be on the water. So that's a big part of it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, dude, I appreciate you taking the time to come
Yeah,
visit
brother.
with us,
For
man.
sure, man. Thanks for having me.
When you come down, like let's get in the boat.
Let's do it. Let's more crush it, man. I'll spend a day for sure.
Shoot me a text and a date
I will.
and all that stuff, and we'll get something set up on that.
Let's do it, brother.
And yeah, guys, Landon Mayers, give him a call if people want to contact you and want to go out with you or want to, check you out. Where do they go? What do they do? What's the website? What's the contact?
You bet. Yeah, appreciate that. It's LandonMayerFlyFishing.com. It's the same on Instagram, on Facebook. You can DM me. You can reach me through the website and the contact page. Booking trips. I'm booked every year, pretty solid, but I tell people that I don't book through, so I leave open days so I can transition my days and spend time with new anglers and challenge myself and challenge them and challenge the waters with the fish we all love to pursue. So that's the best way to get in touch with me.
Yep. All right, man. Yep. Well, I hope some people contact you. Man, it
brother.
was great having you, and I will contact you in a couple of days.
Let's do it, man. I'll be in your neck of the woods.
Hey, by the way, I need to be hooked up on one of those boats too, so we'll be talking about that.
Oh, let's do it for sure. It's happening, brother.
All right. Later, Landon.
Thanks, buddy. Take care, man.